I'm Duncan McLeod, and this is TCS Impact Series brought to you by TechCentral. To subscribe, you can do so on YouTube. Simply go to youtube.com/TechCentral, hit the subscribe button, and you'll never miss an episode of the show. Now, today's guest is a friend of the show. Akhram Mohamed is Vice President of Operations, Huawei Business Group, South Africa. Akhram, welcome to the show. How's your 2023 treating you so far?
Thank you for having me on the show, Duncan. It's really a pleasure to be here. And 2023 has started off quite really well. We recently launched our latest flagship product and a whole host of complementary products. But apart from business, I think for the economy, for the rest of the industry, things are looking a little bit brighter, hopefully, for 2023, apart from load shedding.
Yes.
But otherwise, things are getting better. Supply chains are starting to open up a little bit. COVID restrictions are easing around the world. So hopefully we have a more promising year than the last one.
Great. And you've mentioned there's a new flagship in South Africa. I have it right here in my hand. This is the Huawei Mate50 Pro.
That's
I
it.
love the camera design at the back. And
Absolutely
I do like
stunning.
this orange color as well. It's quite unusual for a smartphone.
It's stunning in terms of aesthetics. I mean, as you can see, the camera design that you mentioned, that space ring, but also a little bit understated. So it's both for the aesthetics and the beauty element, but also it's practical because having that kind of design allows us to keep the camera bump much smaller. Considering that we have a periscope lens on this device,
Wow.
and also ultra aperture, which means physical aperture that you can change, you would normally get a huge camera bump on a device like that, but we managed to keep it down because it's all spread across the space ring.
Yeah.
So yeah, both aesthetics and functional, really stunning one.
And it's certainly become a selling point for smartphones is the camera bump.
Yeah.
They're very, all smartphones these days, especially when you switch them off, look very similar from the front.
Absolutely.
But at the back, it's become a way for brands to distinguish themselves.
That makes a statement.
Yes, and this certainly makes a statement.
Yeah, and I think brands are doing that more and more as a differentiating factor, but also because mobile phones are not just communication devices anymore or photography devices, but it's an extension of our personalities, our sense of fashion, lifestyle, all of those things. So it's really, really important to fuse them into the design element.
And you want to make a statement with your phone these
Absolutely.
days, absolutely. Now, I'm a big fan of the Mate series. I owned the Mate 20, I think it was, the Mate 20 Pro, which unfortunately was liberated from me in traffic. But I loved that device. How popular has the Mate series been in the South African context?
Well, it's really interesting that you mentioned Mate 20,
Yes.
because that was the most successful model in South
Oh, was
Africa
it?
and
Okay.
around the world as well.
Okay.
It really started to kick off with the Mate 10 device, and I think throughout the Mate, the entire heritage was built from that specific smartphone, which was the first one to launch with artificial intelligence and on-device processing through the NPU, and it really, really took off. But when the Mate 20 series came in, it was really well designed. It had stunning display, great processing, and cameras. All of them. It was an all-in-one package, and I think that was so incredible.
At a good price.
At a great price point too, yeah. And that just flew off the shelves. So that set the statement, and then of course we skipped one generation afterwards due to the challenges we experienced with some of the restrictions, the geopolitical
sanctions,
situations.
yeah.
So we skipped one model, and then we came in with the Mate 40 device, Mate 40 Pro in South Africa, and that did fairly well too. And now we are quite encouraged by the pre-orders and the interest so far.
Right.
In just a couple of days for the Mate 50 Pro, and we're hoping to do just as well.
Okay. Now, you obviously have discussions amongst yourselves about which products to range in the South African market. This model was introduced in some markets already last year. It's now being introduced in South Africa. What's the thought process behind introducing a new phone in the country? What criteria does it have to reach in order to be considered sufficiently, suitable for introduction to a local market?
I think South Africa over the last number of years has become a tier 1 country for Huawei as a brand.
Sure.
So if we go back to the P8, etc., we started at that time. We were still moving into the premium space, and once the P8 launched and we went into P9, P10, and then of course Mate 10 series, we really cemented ourselves as a strong flagship premium smartphone vendor in the local market. And that has not changed. So because South Africa is so important for Huawei as a business globally, all new flagship devices will come to South Africa. This is no different. So we've set it for ourselves. I mean, it's one of the most important countries for us, and that even supersedes Europe. So definitely outside China, South Africa will be one of the first countries we introduce new products to.
Oh, good. That's great news. So give us the elevator pitch, if you like, 2 minutes about why consumers should be looking at the Mate 50 Pro. What are the standout features of this device?
Well, I think there's a couple things, and like we mentioned first was the design and how it's an extension of who you are, etc. It's a really, really stunning looking phone.
It is.
And the version you've got in your hand right now is the vegan leather version. So the back is also a little bit more durable compared to the standard glass versions. And then you've got the incredible cameras that are on this. Now, the important things, I mean, everybody loves great cameras nowadays because we document special moments. And we always want to document our lives throughout, especially for kids, for lifestyle, and those live on social media. So you need to have really good set of cameras. We've been leading the camera industry for quite some time in a smartphone. And once again, we've got a periscope camera lens in here. So that allows for you to take 3.5 times optical zoom, but go up to 100 times in terms of digital zoom as well. So you're getting 0.5 right up to 100, which is essentially a 200 times range. That is just one of the lenses. We then have a 60 megapixel Ultra Aperture camera as well, and this is really, really incredible. So what it does is, and people love portrait photography, especially to get those nice, lovely bokeh, and also low light photography. And usually these are enhanced by manufacturers through computational photography using software. So for the first time on a smartphone, we've actually put in physical aperture. So you've got 6 blades that actually move and can adjust your aperture by 10 levels. So this allows you to manually control your aperture and have full control of it, and then enhance it via software as well. So this is now on DxO Mark, the #1 phone in the world for overall photography on a smartphone, as well as low light, as well as bokeh because of that. And then, of course, you've got your macro lenses included and the wide-angle lens, and all of them come together. And I think this is really important, as a package with Huawei's XMAGE technology. And what we do is we take software, we take the camera lens hardware, as well as the image processing system, and fuse all of them together to allow an ordinary user to just point and shoot without being a pro and get the best image possible. So it's not just about megapixel count, but how all of them come together. And that is what we call XMAGE.
Easy to use. XMAGE.
XMAGE. That is a Huawei brand that's based on our cameras now. So incredible camera. And then, of course, for a premium phone like this, I think one of the pain points, and our R&D has shown this, is that your screen, you want to protect, people tend to break the screens a lot, especially if you drop it. So that is something that we've also improved on the Mate series.
Can we test it?
Yeah, go for it.
No, I'm just checking.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Go for it. And I'll pick that up.
Looks like it's in good condition.
Good condition, not even scratches.
Should we try it a bit higher? Ooh, can't believe I'm doing this, Akhram. Perfect, no scratches.
At that height.
At that height, that's very impressive.
That is called Kunlun Glass, what you've just practiced and tested there right now. So compared to normal glass, we've run a process that takes 24 hours, 108 processes and steps at 1600 degrees Celsius. And we've used 10 quadrillion nanocrystallization process to actually ensure that this screen is as durable as possible. The result is what you've just got now. It's 10 times more drop resistance than the standard screen. And it's the first smartphone in the world to get a 5-star certification for drop resistance by Switzerland's SGS.
Impressive stuff.
Yeah. And then, of course, the battery. Battery life is incredible, as you would expect from a Mate.
How big is it?
4,700 milliamp hours, but also then complemented by a 66-watt supercharge, and 50-watt wireless supercharge.
50 watts wireless?
50 watts wireless. That's really, really
Is that safe?
Yeah, absolutely safe.
Right.
Because it's not just on the handset itself, but also the charging cable and the charging block. All of them are integrated. And then we have AI, which will automatically cut it out if it finds it's getting out of hand or if there's any danger, too hot or any of those kind of things. But it also learns your habits. So your sleep patterns based on what time you wake up and your alarm clock and all of these things. So, you're going to get up at 6 o'clock. There's no need to charge your phone till 100% at midnight.
Right.
So it will pause the charging until it's closer to the time of you to get up and then take it on to get it to fully charge. So that also conserves the battery life and makes it much safer.
And extends the life of the battery as well, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And one thing that we've added, which is really, really incredible, but I hope people will never have to use, is the emergency battery mode. So when your phone gets to 1% battery life, the phone automatically switches to emergency super energy mode. And that gives you 3 hours of standby on the 1% or 12 minutes of talk time.
Okay.
So if you need to contact emergency services for whatever you need, in case you haven't charged it and it's load shedding, you can't get to a power source, you still have 3 hours of standby so you can be reached, or you have 12 minutes of talk time.
It's a bit like the reserve tank on your car. Yeah.
That's it.
It's very clever.
So these
you can't use the phone for anything else except making an emergency phone call during
emergency phone call and text messaging.
And texting.
Yeah,
okay.
Texting as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So some great features here. Unfortunately, Akhram, we can't talk about modern smartphones these days without talking about geopolitics as well.
Yeah.
And obviously, consumers have some concerns around some of the impact that we've seen flowing from those geopolitical issues.
Absolutely.
And one of them is the access to Google services, and the other, of course, is the access to 5G networking. Yeah. This is a 4G LTE phone. In my experience, I still use a 4G LTE phone, by the way. I don't have a 5G phone. And I find it perfectly adequate for what I need to do.
Sure.
So, while it doesn't have 5G, that doesn't make the phone any less usable.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that, and also the how consumers are finding, here in South Africa, are finding the use of Huawei mobile services instead of Google mobile services on their devices?
I think that's a very important question. So thank you for bringing that up. Since the sanctions hit in 2019, of course, at that point, we weren't quite sure how it's going to go and how it's going to play out, what's going to be the result. But again, because of our huge investments in research and development, we've managed to come up with solutions, one of them being the AppGallery, which has now become the third largest app store in the world. But, we're under no illusions that it was a challenge and it was a change, because consumers need to now try something completely different. I think what helped was the fact that it's still Android.
Yes.
And that was the major confusion. When we first launched HMS, people thought it was a new operating system. It's not. It's still Android-based. And by virtue of that, Android APKs would work.
Yes.
The key differentiation...
APK being the software package for an app on Android.
That's correct.
Right.
And that will, by default, it should work. The major issue or differentiator was if an application required to call on certain APIs for Google services, for example, location.
Yes.
If you're using a delivery service or a ride-hailing app,
right,
it will call on Google services to provide those mapping solutions. Those specific applications now had nowhere to call on because of the geopolitics, we weren't allowed to use those services. And that is what HMS essentially is. Huawei created our own APIs to be able to plug in. And we had to go out to developers to be able to get them to integrate that. And I think that was the major transition. But since 2019 to now, massive progress have been made in that space. And that is why we've now become the third largest app store by downloads globally. But also applications have become available. So when we go back to 2019, myself, I found it a little bit challenging using an HMS phone. Today, as a business person, as an executive, I use my phone a lot, and it's a lot of, I've got 153 applications on my mobile phone, and all of them are functional. So if I need to use Uber, it's available. I can use Google Chrome, I can use Maps, I can use YouTube on a Huawei HMS device, and the same with the consumers. And all of these apps that I just mentioned are directly available on the AppGallery.
Right.
Okay, so it's
and they all work. If they're in the AppGallery, they're all going to work 100%.
Correct. So you don't need to now go to third-party app stores like it used to be.
Yes.
We also had a solution which was Petal Search previously, just last year, and it was a search engine that will find applications for you off the internet and allow you to then sideload that. Now you don't need to do this because even Petal Search is integrated into AppGallery. And AppGallery has all the security protocols to scan, to check for malware, to ensure the app is legitimate. And then you download that onto your device and it's fully functional if it's on AppGallery. We currently have a 99.9% app availability rate for the most popular apps in the world.
Okay.
So I think massive, massive improvement.
A lot of people were sideloading APKs onto their devices, which obviously has security risks associated with it.
Correct.
What you're saying is that with all the development that's happened, your average consumer is probably not going to have to sideload an APK onto their device. So you can get WhatsApp now in
You could get WhatsApp in AppGallery. You could get Facebook. Well, all of your social media, your ride-hailing, your e-commerce,
right.
financial services, entertainment and streaming services. So all of the popular apps that we use, and as well as the popular apps like I mentioned, like YouTube and Chrome, and even Google Drive. I think one of the challenges earlier on, we did have WhatsApp available on AppGallery.
Right.
But because we have Huawei cloud services, you couldn't back it up to Google Drive. So that was a problem. You had to back it up by default on the handset itself. Whereas now you could back up on a Huawei device onto Google Drive as well.
Okay.
So these are all available, and it's right there for consumers to go and experience. So the user experience has improved drastically. There shouldn't be an issue where a customer is concerned about software in their decision-making process if they're choosing Huawei right now.
If they do have concerns, though, if they go to the point of sale, if they, for example, go to one of your Huawei stores, I presume the sales assistants there will gladly take them through
absolutely
what the phone can and cannot do, any questions or concerns they might have about the lack of GMS on the device, and the ability to get access to apps that they're used to using.
100%. I think it's right now it's just a point of education and getting people to understand how do you go about it. It's like kind of moving from Android to iOS. There's a little bit of a learning curve. And to be able to plug that learning curve, if they go into our stores, we offer a free unboxing service.
Okay.
So the consultants will unbox it, they will make sure it's set up, they transfer all of your data from your old device to your new one and show you exactly where to go to be able to set up your new phone as you would expect it to be. But beyond that, we're one of the few, I think we're the only manufacturer right now that offers a 24/7 customer service touch point. So on your phone itself, you've got Huawei Care, and by going through that, we have live chat. We also have a WhatsApp facility and a phone facility. So we have multiple touch points for consumers to reach us. So even if you can't find an app, we've got somebody live that you can chat to and say, where do I go? And they'll direct you and navigate you through that process. At any time, 24/7.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic.
Sorry.
Yes.
The question about 4G and 5G.
Of course, yes.
I think that was also a really, really important one. And as you correctly mentioned, 4G right now, especially in a South African context, works really, really well. If we look at the 5G providers, yes, it's a little bit more stable, perhaps lower latency, etc. But from true speeds, 4G LTE is still the most reliable option. And we find that most of our users, this is sufficient or actually doing the job great. And the reason is not so much that we cannot provide 5G. I mean, this phone in your hand has the latest chipset provided by Qualcomm. Huawei is still the #1 5G provider globally in terms of networking infrastructure. What has happened really with the geopolitics is that we were stopped and restricted from purchasing equipment to be able to manufacture those chips.
Right.
So although we designed the chips because we had Kirin and part of HiSilicon, and we could design our own chipsets, but we were restricted from purchasing components. Then we went to fabrication facilities and we said, we'll buy components from you. But because they use US equipment, we weren't even allowed to have a commercial agreement with them. So clearly this is geopolitics, it's about economics and has nothing to do with national security interests or anything like that, because those same companies can provide 4G chips to us.
Right.
But as soon as you unlock a 5G modem to make it a little bit faster, then it's a security issue. So, that doesn't make any sense at all, but that is the restriction and not for a lack of capability. And we're hoping in future that we can be able to overcome those hurdles as we've overcome the GMS hurdles.
I was going to ask about HiSilicon and how you overcome some of these issues. Are you confident that Huawei phones will have 5G in the future?
Yeah, we're certainly working on it. And I think one of the main things and what allows us, if we look at the challenges we've experienced over this number of years, Duncan, we shouldn't exist. We shouldn't be having this conversation. And launching flagship phones at this price point and still selling them. It's done incredibly well, but and that's testament to the brand and the technology and the innovation. But a lot of that has to do with the 15% of our annual revenues that we invest every single year in research and development. It allows us to be just a step ahead. Just last year alone, we registered about close to 7,000 patents, making us #1 globally. 2017 to 2021, we were 180% higher than the second company that registered patents. So we're continuously going out there and innovating and investing lots of money. This is what is allowing us to be able to say we will get out of this and we will find a solution.
Yeah. It's been a heck of a a ride for Huawei over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
and it must have been incredibly difficult to have these restrictions placed on you while you were. I mean, you were on a real upward momentum leading into these sanctions that were imposed by the US, and I think you'd taken the #1 position.
We did.
Globally.
Yes.
Just before the sanctions hit.
It was about a month prior to April, and then in May the sanctions hit. In April of 2019, we peaked at #1 globally.
Yes, I remember that.
And then we were hit with the sanctions, and then things.
Must have been incredibly frustrating for your teams.
Absolutely, and I think especially if you find a company that works so hard and has been trying and doing all of this, but at the same time we've been incredibly resilient.
Yes.
Our fan base and the Huawei users have proven to be incredibly resilient too, especially in a South African context.
Oh, they're quite loyal to the brand.
Yeah, absolutely, and an extension of this is just mobile phones, but we launched PCs, we launched wearables, we launched tablets.
Yes.
And in many of those segments, we were new to market. We're coming with a PC and we're going up against the Dells and the HPs of the world, who of course have incredible products and established channels already. So we had to come and learn the market. We had to come and try and attract that consumer base. And of course, we didn't cover every price point, but the price points that we did cover, we became first or second in just 1 quarter. And we still maintained those positions. So we might only have 2 or 3 models of our PC, but we've already #1 or #2. And the same with the wearables. We are the second largest wearable brand in this country, and that is being a new entrant. Audio products, same. And this is, again, because of that loyalty and a loyal fan base, and they know the quality of Huawei. It was really just the restrictions that were placed on us that maybe took an effect on our mobile phones. But now that we've resolved much of it, consumers can be rest assured they'd have a great experience. Yeah.
Before I let you go, let's talk about the launch of this product in South Africa. You mentioned it's open for pre-order.
Yes.
When does it officially go on sale?
1 Feb.
1 Feb,
Yeah.
okay.
So from the 26th, we did a massive launch event, and pre-orders started from then, and 1st of February, available across the board in South Africa, all retailers, all operators.
Okay, and what should consumers know about this device? Are they getting anything thrown in as part of the deal? I know Huawei likes to do that.
Well, if they pre-ordered,
yes.
And I think they've got a day left.
Well, we're publishing on the 1st, so it might be too late.
Okay, but if you have pre-ordered, you would have gotten a Huawei watch, smartwatch with it, free.
Right.
But if you go into stores, it's still you still can consider it free now because you're getting a supercharger. Like we said, it has 66 watt supercharging. The 66 watt supercharger is provided in the box, unlike some of the other guys that take them out, as well as you have a cover to protect the back. Especially with the glass version, the black and silver, it can get quite a bit of fingerprints. You don't need to worry too much about the front screen, but because of fingerprints or scratches, because this is standard glass, you have a cover that's provided with it as well.
Okay, and the colors it comes in? This is orange. I really like
that's
the color.
That's the orange vegan leather. It comes in black and gold, as well as a silver version as well.
Okay. So this is the only vegan leather.
That's the only
version,
vegan
orange
leather version. That's correct.
But it's a really nice color. I don't know if it's coming through properly on the camera, but it really is a standout color, which is
absolutely stunning.
Fantastic. And obviously you'll be able to get this on contract through the various network operators.
Correct. The contract price starts at around 839 on 36 months, and just 1,099 Rand over 24 months. And of course, you can be able to buy them on the Huawei online store as well, for 24,999 for the black and silver, which is the 256 versions, and 26,999 for the vegan leather 512 version.
Nice, very nice. Okay.
And the pre-orders as well. If people pre-ordered it, they also got 2,500 Rand off on the price if it was pre-ordered. Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, I think it might be just too late by the time we publish, but you can still go into the Huawei online store and order this, or go to one of the. Oh, is it available through all of the network operators?
All of the network operators, as well as some of the major retailers, and of course the Huawei online store.
Great. Well, I look forward to checking it out and trying out HMS and going into the AppGallery and seeing all the apps that I can download and use. And Akhram, I'll provide feedback to you as well about any issues I might run into, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty smooth.
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
I think so too. Yeah. Akhram Mohamed, let me get your title right, is Vice President of Operations at the Huawei Business Group South Africa. Thank you so much for coming into the studio to talk to us today.
Thanks for having me, Duncan. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Akhram.